So today we're talking about offerings from the temple. But before that, I want to say that in Gemara, Yoma, the Talmud, 6-7b, it says that the goat for Azazel atones for the actions of Uzzah and Azael. You see it comes together, Azazel, Uzzah and Azael, who were destructive angels. And they're also referred to as, sons of God. They committed acts at the time of the flood with the daughters of man that were immoral. And in the same area of the Talmud, it talks about gezerah means to cut, and gezartiv means decreed it. So it's like this, the decree is sometimes to cut off the vitality, the blessing. So here it was, this goat that was cut off. So the goat became the judged so that the people would not be judged. And that's just an example of where the offerings are spoken about in the Torah. So now we're going to talk about the chart of the offerings. It's from the Gutnick Chumash, published by menachem. So talking about flour-based offerings, whether it's wheat or barley, whether it's oil placed in a vessel. So there was a fine flour mincha. It's called minchas salas. But I'm not going to read them all in Hebrew, but these are called mincha or shtei halechem or lechem hapanim or minchas nisachim, mincha chanuf. There's different types of mincha, and then chelak and rekikim, which is like kind of wafers. So each of these, they had different laws on whether it had wheat or barley, whether it was oil placed in the sacred vessel, whether flour was placed in the sacred vessel, whether they added oil, whether oil was poured on top, whether there was kneading and baking involved, whether they smeared it with oil, whether they folded it and broke it, whether there was also frankincense present, whether there was waving, if there was a touch, the southwest corner of the altar, if there was this idea of this 3-finger fistful they would do, if there was 3-finger fistful placed into the sacred vessel, whether there was a 3-finger fistful salted and burned on the altar, and if the remainder was eaten. And there was different rules for all these different ones. There was the fine flour mincha, the shallow fried mincha, the deep fried mincha, the oven-baked unleavened loaves, the oven-baked unleavened wafers, the high priest mincha, the induction mincha, the sinner's mincha, the sota's mincha. Sota was the woman who was accused of adultery. The omer, which is 49 days between Passover and Shavuos. Then there was the 2 loaves of Shavuos. There was the multi-surface bread, which was like the show bread. And then there was the libation mincha. So the ones that were personal and voluntary were the fine flour mincha, the shallow fried mincha, the deep fried mincha, the oven-baked unleavened loaves, and the oven-baked unleavened wafers. And all of these were with wheat, not barley. The minchas, the first 3 minchas, were with oil placed in a sacred vessel. All of them were with flour placed in the sacred vessel with oil added. And the first 3 minchas were with oil poured on top. And everything but the fine flour mincha were kneaded and baked. And then only the oven-baked unleavened wafers were smeared with oil. All of them except the fine flour mincha were folded and broken, and all of them had frankincense, a touch in the southwest corner of the altar, a 3-finger fistful, 3-finger fistful placed in the sacred vessel, 3-finger fistful salted and burned on the altar, and the remainder was eaten. Then the next category is personal / obligatory. This was the high priest mincha, the induction mincha, the sinner's mincha, and the sota's mincha. So none of them had wheat, all of them had wheat except the sota's mincha, had barley. All of them had flour placed in a sacred vessel. The high priest mincha and induction mincha, or like the initiation mincha, had oil added and were kneaded and baked and had folding and baking and had frankincense, and the rest didn't. Only the sota's mincha was they did waving. All of them had a touch the southwest corner of the altar and had 3 fingerfuls salted and burned on the altar. And then the sinner's mincha and the sota's mincha had 3-finger fistful placed in a sacred vessel, and the remainder was eaten. Then we have the category of communal. So this is the omer, the 2 loaves of Shavuos, and the multi-surface bread. All 3 had flour placed in the sacred vessel. the omer had barley, and oil was added. Oil was poured on top, and with all with the 2 loaves of Shavuos and the lechem apanim, the showbread, they both had wheat, and all of them had flour placed in the sacred vessel, I think I said. But then the two loaves of Shavuos and the multi-surface bread had kneading, not baking, and the omer alone had the southwest corner of the altar, 3-finger fistful, 3-fingerful placed in sacred vessel, 3-fingerful salted, 3-finger fistful salted and burned in the altar. All of them had the remainder was eaten, and the only ones that were waived were the omer and the 2 loaves of Shavuos, and the frankincense was added to the omer and the multi-surface bread. Then we have finally this is the flour-based offerings, before we go to the animals and the birds. So the personal, communal, personal that's like resembling communal is the libation mincha. That's the mincha nisachem. That one had wheat, oil was placed in the sacred vessel, flour placed in the sacred vessel, oil was added, oil was poured on top. There was 3-finger fistful, salted and burned on the altar. Now we're moving to the animal and birds. So this is the second half. So the reason is going to be given as well. First we're going to start with personal. And regarding speech or action, so there was the we're going to start with communal. There was morning and afternoon, and they were burnt. There was Shabbos. This is the animals and birds. This is Shabbos and Musaf, and they were burnt. There was Yom Kippur, which was sin offering, and it was burnt. We have the Rosh Chodesh, which is the new month, the new moon. The Rosh Chodesh and the festival Musaf, they were sin offerings and they were burnt. Accompaniment to the Omer, we spoke about the Omer earlier with the flour. This was burnt, depending on which animal. I don't have the details here about the animal. Then we have Shavuos, which was offered with 2 loaves. This was both a peace offering. This was all 3, a peace offering, 3 out of 4 options. It was a peace offering, a burnt offering, and a sin offering. Then we have personal offerings of animals and birds. The speech or action, we have the citizen's sin offering. Then we have the guilt offering in case of doubt. This is guilt. In a case of a maybe. Then we have unintentional idol worship. It's a sin offering. Then we have relations with partially married slave woman, which means she's so that's a guilt offering, which means she's not like fully single or fully like a married woman. Then we have the leader's sin offering. So that's one thing I want to make a comment, which is amazing about Judaism. There's a sin offering for the leader. That means leaders make mistakes. Okay. The erroneous ruling of an anointed high priest. Look at that. A high priest could make an error. So that's a sin. That's a sin offering. Specifically humans that are carrying out God's will. Then we have the variable sin offering. So it's a sin offering, but it's not always offered as a burnt offering. Dishonesty or false denial, a guilt offering, and misappropriation of temple property, a guilt offering. And then in personal, we have body related. So we have the purification of the zav and the zava. These are the male or female when they have a discharge coming. So whether it's after the period or a sexual discharge, various reasons. So there's a sin offering and a burnt offering. Then you have purification from tsaras, which is like a leprosy, but it's not exactly. It's a skin disease. So that would be guilt offering, sin offering, burnt offering. The Nazirite that touches a corpse. So this is a man who took on a vow that he's not going to drink wine, and he's going to stay near death, and he's not going to cut his hair. And then unfortunately he touched a corpse, or he was inside with in a situation where he happened to touch a corpse. It's a guilt offering, a sin offering, and that's a burnt offering. The woman after she gives birth is a sin offering and a burnt offering, and the convert who becomes a convert has an offering, and his is a burnt offering. I keep saying he, but it could also be she for a lot of these. Okay, possessions. The accompaniment to the first fruits. First fruits are the bikurim. That's like the first fruits of the harvest. So it's a peace offering. Then you have the animal tithes. So the accompaniment to the first fruits is the animal or birds that are given accompanying the first fruits. Then you have the animal tithes. and then you have firstborn. So these were both peace offerings, right? These are like, it's not because of a sin, it's not because of a guilt, and it's not totally consumed by the fire. But the Rambam, Maimonides, says that this one, the firstborn and the animal tithes offerings, resembles a peace offering, but with somewhat different sacrificial offering procedure. Then we have the when it has to do with time, again, personal to do with time. So the pilgrim's offering, this is a burnt offering, the 3 pilgrimages per year. Then they have a festival offerings, which is called it's like simcha, happy, peace offering, and then the festival offerings chagiga, which is like celebration. That's also a peace offering. Then we have the Nazarite that completes his vow. It's a peace offering, a sin offering, and a burnt offering. Oh, and this is in the category still of personal, but now it's voluntary. So we did the communal offerings, we did personal speech or action, personal body related, possessions, and time. Now we're on voluntary. So the Nazarite that completes his vow, peace, sin, and burnt. Thanksgiving is a peace offering. It's like giving thanks to God. And a voluntary offering any voluntary offering is a burnt offering and a peace offering. Then we have communal offerings, which resemble personal, because we talked about communal already. So this is communal that resemble personal. So this is erroneous communal sin, which is a sin offering, and erroneous communal idolatry, which is a burnt offering and a sin offering. Finally, we have personal offerings that resemble communal. We have the first and second Pesach offering, which is a peace offering that the Rambam says it's like this offering is kind of like resembling a peace offering, but it's somewhat differing sacrificial process. Procedure. And then the high priest on Yom Kippur, which is a personal offering, but it looks like it resembles a communal. That's the sin offering and burnt offering. So there we have it. That's all for today. Have a good one. Bye.